Hello, wonderful people of the world. How are we today? Wanted to share with you, I was in a seminar yesterday, and some amazing people called Jeff and Jessica Jennings were sharing with us some incredible information on relationship remastery and talking about relationships, so spousal relationships or partner relationships, friendships, anyone we connect with, so family, friends, etc. It all relates. And what they were chatting about was the fight or flight response, which I'm sure you know about, and that's actually three responses that automatically come to us when we're in situations of fear. So you see something scary, and then the amygdala in our brains sends this sort of very primitive thought process out or action out, where we either flight, so we run, or we freeze, we stay on the spot, or we get ready to fight. And that's kind of what we're geared up to do. So what's interesting is when we go through life, because we don't really come across tigers and bears, well, not, most of us don't. Obviously here where I live, you could come across lions or snakes or whichever, but it's different in wherever around the world, but that's not part of our sort of normal everyday living experience. So what we've actually come to do is that the amygdala hasn't stopped performing as it does. And how that actually fits into relationships is, you all know that time when someone says something to you and you do a reaction, like a snap reaction afterwards. You're thinking to yourself, why did I react like that? That was bizarre. What it generally or can be is that through our past, through our upbringings, we put associations to things. So let's say, for example, we didn't get enough emotional attention when we were younger, when that could maybe later in life make us quite needy for that sort of, we're a bit more insecure about having that support in our lives, and we look for that within our partners or our relationships in our life, friendships and otherwise. So when we don't get it in a moment where we might be heightened, and let's say I'm at that moment in a place of, I'm looking for that kind of gratification from my partner or a friend or whatever, and I say something in a certain way, but there's a tone in my voice, or there's something in my voice that sort of comes across that it's that I'm saying it in a certain way, but that then triggers something in them that could be associated with their past. Now, say I then trigger a response in them that comes back as a bit of a, or they pick up that there's a bit of a tone in my voice, they might come back with not the response that I'm looking for, because I'm looking for gratification on my need of response. And what else ultimately ends up happening is, that person might say something, and then because I didn't get what I wanted, I automatically affronted, then respond negatively. And that's how arguments can happen, and that's how sort of relationships can start distancing, because you start putting this space between you, psychological space between you, which is a lack of communication, and it's as a result of our own responses to things within our lives. So it's just really interesting. So it was quite amazing to think about that. So when I'm with Stacey, this is a hypothetical situation, but I'm with Stacey, and I'm out looking for, I've just designed something, a new workbook, or I've got a new process that I'm introducing to the coaching practice or something like that, and I've obviously spent a lot of time on it. And I get myself quite excited about showing Stacey it, and this hasn't happened, by the way, but I obviously have shown lots to Stacey, but this scenario I'm going to say hasn't happened. So I take it to her, and she has no idea that I've built myself up to this level to get so excited about it, and then hand it over to her to have a look. And she doesn't go like, oh my god, this is amazing, you're brilliant, wow, oh, round of applause, standing ovation, which for some reason I'm expecting as a result of this, this moment and that build up that I had. And then I shut down, and I'm like, oh. So she just goes, oh, it's good, and I'm like, it's not good enough response. And now I've made her feel bad for not responding enough. So what was I looking for from her? If I actually break down that moment, it's a bit I put her in a really unfair position, because does that mean next time I want her to pretend that she's feeling woohoo, this is amazing, when actually she's coming back with like maybe some criticism on some grammar or spelling or structure or how it could be better or anything. But the reality is, if we were to look at what should I be looking for in that moment, what is it I ultimately want? I want a really strong tool that's going to really help my clients be the best possible versions of themselves to achieve what it is they want to achieve. So I should want this tool to be spectacular. But yet what I've done is I've made it about me and the response I was looking for, not about the tool. Because in this scenario, Stacey is the perfect person to come back with, okay, I think it needs this, you know, and her input and advice is invaluable, and I intellectually know that, but then my emotional response didn't back that up. My emotional response was all about me and my inadequacy and my need to get validation of, well done, good job. So that's something for me to reflect on, again, in that scenario. It's interesting as I'm talking about it, it's actually, there is big parts of that within me, and it's something that I work on, and all of us have things, and the trick is to work on it, is to get better at it, because at the end of the day, if I was to get past that, and I had incredible tools left, right and centre, which I do, if I was to have more incredible tools, you know, the better and better my practice is going to be, the more powerful the coaching is going to be, the more results that we'll get. So it was just very interesting. It really struck a chord with me that there's that very primitive response within us that then presents itself in certain ways, and we absolutely can remaster it, and we can be the master of our own emotions and feelings, and the best way to get past that is to, in that moment, would be speak to Stacey. In that situation, is to sit down with her and say, you know, now we've got tangled up in the spaghetti junction of confusion now, because it's not obvious necessarily in the moment, but it's, okay, listen, I have to be honest, what I was looking for there in bringing that to you was validation of my own ability, as opposed to an assessment of the tool, which I realised was incorrect, but I'm just being very open and honest with you. That I know for a fact, well, absolutely, being that vulnerable, being that honest, being that open in that moment is only going to get me respect, where she's going to say, oh, yes, you know, and then my reaction was this, that, or the other, and we sort of untangle it, we work it out. And then something that the Jennings yesterday were saying, which was very clever, was to actually come up with a name for it, but make it fun. You know, so it's like, call it the, you know, it's our whoopsie-doo moment or whatever. And, you know, whenever it comes up again, is rather than having to unpick it all, you could just say like, ooh, do you think that was a bit of a whoopsie-doo moment? And then it kind of makes light of it. And then you can take a few minutes or a bit of time to actually just explore it together and work it out. The more and more you do that, the better you'll get at noticing it. As with everything, like our physical bodies, the more we exercise these things, the more proficient we get, the stronger we get at doing them. Anyway, so there you go, a little trick on relationship remastery. Not mine at all, just something I'm sharing that I got from, again, Jeff and Jessica Jennings. So check them out, great people. And I'm also developing tools to kind of help in that area as well to talk about. So great stuff. Anyway, press up time, and thanks for listening. If you're still with me, I'm very impressed you're still here. Here we go for the press ups. I can get my phone to rest on something. Resting on an acacia thorn tree at the moment. Right, here we go. Oh, and that's 50 again. Well, 25 just now, but 50 in total today. Loving this, guys. Stay with me. It's an exciting journey. Loving having you along with me. Good stuff. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Top banana day, in fact.